population struggles and wrestles with worry and anxiety. That's a big number. In fact, if we can just be authentic just for a few moments, how many of us would say, Pastor Isaac, I struggle with worry and anxiety? How many of us would say that? Okay, a few of us. How many of you would say, like, I got anxious when you asked me if I was anxious? Okay, that's a lot of us. Okay. 20 and 30% of the adult population wrestles with worry and anxiety. Listen to this. Anxiety disorders affect 39% of youth between the ages of 13 and 18, which means close to 40% of our kids wrestle with worry and anxiety, which tells me that as a church, this is something we need to be talking about, not from a clinical perspective, but from a biblical perspective, because God has so much to say about our minds. Listen to this. The average child today exhibits the same level of anxiety as the average psychiatric patient did in the 1950s. Golly, as a church, I know this is not our regular scheduled programming, but we're going to talk about these issues because they matter and Scripture has a lot to say about it. Now, for the sake of the conversation today, I'm going to use the words worry and anxiety interchangeably. All right? They are not the same, but I'm going to use them interchangeably. Worry, just a simple definition, worry usually attacks our minds. And so they are thoughts that we play and rehearse and ruminate over again and again and again and again. It's primarily happening in our minds. We feel anxiety in our bodies. Let me give you an example. So you have the biggest work presentation of your life. Like a multi-million-dollar deal is riding on this presentation. And it all falls on your shoulders, and so you feel the weight of this presentation. Worry says, what if I forget my points? Oh Lord, what if I forget my points? And so you rehearse that worry in your mind over and over again. Anxiety goes, I can't sleep the night before. Anxiety goes, you're walking in the room and you just feel nauseous and you want to throw up. Worry affects our minds. Anxiety impacts our body. All right? But for the sake of this conversation today, we're going to use those words interchangeably. Jesus has a lot to say about worry. In Matthew chapter 6, he says this, and which of you, this is verse 27, which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? Jesus is saying this about worry. Worry is both useless and it's not beneficial. Because how, by worrying, can you accomplish anything? It can't even add a single hour to your life. So Jesus says when it comes to worry is a whole lot of stewing without doing. Worry is like sitting on a rocking chair. There's a whole lot of movement, but nobody's going anywhere. That's worry. The word worry comes from an Old English word that means to strangle. Which is why when we're overcome with worry, it feels like someone is just sitting on our chest and we're being strangled. Jesus says, worry is not my heart for you because it is useless and it doesn't accomplish anything. So here's what Paul says.